Australia. Personally, this country of Australia is one of the most interesting of terms of traditions, the customs, the policy, and the economy. Therefore, there was my preference to carry out this investigation in more detail about this attractive country. In the same way, I'm will to mention that information that our workbook provide to us. But it's important to mention that Australia is one of the countries where the economy continues to be managed through the agriculture export as well as the export of iron on this majority.
Australia is a hugely popular place for Chinese investors. They're investing heavily into real estate and infrastructure projects. Just take a look around here. It's not hard to find Chinese money flowing into Australia.
From major ports to landmark buildings and large sections of Australia's farmlands, Chinese investors are buying at a rapid rate.
Here in Sydney, this building, which is home to the Australian Stock Exchange, was recently purchased. The buyer, a billionaire from Hong Kong, known to be one of China's largest toy manufacturers.
Then there's Australia's massive ports. A group of funds backed by Chinese investors agreed to buy the nation's busiest port located in Melbourne for more than $7 billion. Australia's agriculture sector has also caught the eyes of Chinese investors.
The biggest importer of Australian wine used to be the US and the UK just a few years ago. Today, it's China, and now some of China's biggest winemakers are buying up large vineyards with the intent of selling the wine that's produced here directly into China.
In 2016, Australian wine exports to China surged 40%, and wine only scratches the surface.
China's investment in Australia's agricultural sector has gone from $300 million to more than $1 billion in just 1 year. This shift is being driven by China's booming middle class, which has high demand for things like produce, meats, dairy, and minerals.
One specific example: baby formula. After outbreaks in China from tainted infant formula, the product has been flying off the shelves in Australia. Why? Millions of Chinese trust made in Australia much more. And consider this, more than 17 million babies were born in China just last year. Some Chinese tourists are snatching up as much formula as they can to sell it for a premium back on the mainland. Many stores now have a limit on the amount you can buy. Perhaps no sector in Australia, though, is being more impacted than housing. Home prices in Sydney have nearly doubled since the global financial crisis. Australia's federal government recently blocked the sale of the nation's largest electric grid after a Chinese and Hong Kong holdings company attempted to purchase a controlling stake. The government bowed to pressure from opponents of the deal who said they were giving away control of their power grid to another country. The outflow of cash from China has prompted Chinese authorities to announce new regulations for investing money outside of the country. New South Wales has doubled taxes on foreign buyers to 8% of the purchase price. But here's the thing, government initiatives have hardly slowed down demand.
Likewise, in order to mention the desired information, I will tell you a little of the research that I carry out at the beginning as general information, which is the location, its main importer, exporters, the products that are exported, as well as the mercancy for which the economy is narrated. Mainly this topic, which in our book is called Australia's Trade Policy Dilemmas, mentioned to us about the existing trade agreements as well as foreign policy, one or another multilateral treaty or agreements. Trade policy is levels of import and export. As I mentioned, Australia is one of my favorite countries for all that cultural diversity of as well as the traditions. They having the topics seem important and significant to me due to the fact that it's more related to the career that I'm studying, which is international relations. Since we talked about exports, the imports, the trade barriers, the trade policies, the different agreements, that exist, and in general isn't a subject that I am very passionate about investigating in each country, including ours. As we know, there have been several crises in which each of the countries around the world have been affected in every way. But in this case, Australia has been able to survive to these situations. And in many of the cases, the impact is less or almost in comparison with other countries. Likewise, the main suppliers are Colombia and Brazil, which is why in terms of agriculture, they export to that country. They are fresh asparagus, as well as Brazil nuts and quinoa. Now I'm going to tell you about the disadvantage of exporting to Australia. The strengths provided are having a strong business as well as the serious technology sector on the rise, having protection of intellectual property. As I mentioned, the advantage, I'm going to tell you the disadvantage of to export to Australia. One of the disadvantages is being very close to Asian territory is commercial exports are destined for them. They may have the risk that this country falls into any economic crisis, it will be immediately affect to them. Improvements with international trade in Australia, the new opportunities that can be taken for the economy of the country of Australia is growth to be able to invest in new, more remote countries, for example, in Latin American economy. Investing in the Mexican economy will be a great economic support since, as mentioned by different statistics, Mexico in 2015 will be the 7th largest economy.